back, everyone, and today we're gonna weather some brand new Microtrain lines container cars. I'm gonna show you the step-by-step process of what we're gonna do to each one of these, and there's 3 different components here, and I want to do a variety of things for you guys here. Yeah, so this is what we're working with, and be careful, guys, all the handrails on these are very delicate. So what we're going to do is grab some pliers here. Pretty tricky, just be patient. Here you go, just take that there. Carefully take your wheel set out, put it aside. So what I also suggest is to grab a container of some sort and leave all your components for your items in the same container like that. Don't lose them, we'll deal with those after. Next, I cut a piece of styrofoam and added 2 toothpicks to it, as you see, and put the unit in there like that, and it's pretty solid, and that gives us an area to work on it and we don't have to touch it. Alright, next I want to grab some masking tape, but for some reason this stuff's really strong and I like to use it for this kind of stuff here. So what I do is I grab a little bit, you'll see here, just like that, because what we want to do is attach everything before we work on it. We'll attach this right in the middle here and put it on the edge, and what that does is elevates them, gives us a place to work on them, and then later we could weather underneath if need be, but this gives us full access and we don't have to touch what we're working on now. So alright, so what we're going to do here first is we're going to add some bite to the paint, and what that means to me is we're going to fade it down, and what I usually use to do that is some white or gray. Now it's up to you if you want to use acrylics or enamels. The pros and cons with them are acrylics, they'll dry way quicker, so you could proceed to the next step quicker, but the pigment in acrylics is a little larger, so when you thin it down you may be able to see a little bit of the pigments with acrylics, whereas enamels, the pigments are much smaller, so your detail will be much finer. So I don't mind for this, I am going to just use acrylics, but for fine detail you will get a better result with enamel, but again it will smell because you're using enamel thinner, and the enamel paint just smells. That's the way it is. It does dry pretty quick, but the acrylics will dry quicker. Furthermore, I am going to use ISO to dilute my white down. I'm not going to use water, and this will also help thin the paint down and evaporate quicker. So as you can see, I have a little bit of ISO in my jar there, and I'm just going to add 1 drop. That's it. We're going to knock down that paint. We want it to look sun faded, so make sure you stir it up really well. So that looks about right. Always give it a test shot. Looks about right. So here, I'm gonna be quick. There we go. See that? Move over your model quickly. So we're gonna get 1, 2, and obviously with the stack car there, we don't have to worry about the roof as much because there's no roof. But when you have box cars or container cars, you want to add more sun fading to that roof, because the sun will always be on that roof fading it. So this one looks a little bit thicker, so what I'm going to do is just give 1 quick blast to the orange container there. Alright, yeah, that's a bit thicker, so just 1 quick blast. There we go, guys. See that? So now see the sides over here. I'll give 1 more far away. Alright, see that? So right away you can see our containers look faded. Get that second one over there 1 more time. And I go back to this, and you can see it's already drying up and looking faded. That's exactly what we want. So the sides now are pretty much done, so let's get the inside a quick blast. Remember to get both sides, just in case this sits empty. What I want to do with this white container is I'm going to do a patch job on it, and What I'm going to do is put masking tape just around these two logos, and we're going to just do some sort of gray, primer gray. We're going to do that to both sides. This orange container we're going to leave as is as far as the paint job, but we are going to rust them. So before I proceed to the next steps, I want to mask this off. And then as far as this one, I'm going to sand away some of the Southern Pacific, and I'm going to make it look like some of that white is fading down. That way it's always good, because I'm not going to be, I always suggest you guys use pictures if you're not familiar with how to do this, or you could just copy me. The larger the trains, the more weathering you can get away with, but when you're dealing with something this small, you only need a little bit done to emphasize what we're up to here. It's easy to overdo it on something so small, so we don't want to do that. So I'm going to grab some 1000 grit, and this Southern Pacific, we're going to sand away some of this logo here. This is 1000 grit EU, so it'll be different in the States or North America. And what that's doing is lightly, I want to be able to know it said Southern Pacific, but I don't want it to be eliminated. Now don't go too deep either, just a light surface sanding. It's easy to take off just a bit, but it's hard to replicate such small letters here. First one on the side here. Try to get these lined up as best as possible. So on the bigger cars, it's easier to get away with some angles here and there, but I just feel on these, the smaller you go, the more accurate you got to be. And all right, guys. So what you see here is that white container car. It's now masked off and ready to do our patch. I just got some surface primer gray here, 73601 from Vallejo Model Air. It's attached, and we can hold that. A few light coats, guys. Doesn't have to be anything spectacular. Just make sure all the masking is down. So I'm going to carefully take this off while it's still kind of wet. You might be able to see it in the camera there. Now, before proceeding to the next step, it's crucial that all the painting you've done previously is dry, because now what I'm going to use is an acrylic Panaline accent color from Tamiya. And again, this is an enamel, so it will work on a dried acrylic. Otherwise, another option is to clear it and then use it. Another option, furthermore, is using a pre-mixed wash. Here's another example of one from Citadel. It works very good. Now this is an acrylic wash or water, and because this is all acrylic on here, I don't want to mix the two. So once this goes on and it dries, we can remove it later, but so I'll show you how it works. And on the well car, we want to get everything, or pretty much everything. And as you see, I'm just painting it around. And what it does is it sinks into all the crevices. You see that? So I'm going to get basically everything exposed on the surface. Or when you're streaking, just go from up to down. See? Now with our containers, I do not want to spread the wash everywhere. I'm concentrating on basically on the ends here to. There we go. Next, we want to get the corners. It's crucial to get all the corners. Alright, next, guys, we want to take a little bit of paint thinner, and I'm just using a generic brand paint thinner. I just put a little bit in there. Really don't need much at all. And then either a Q-tip or one of these little I guess Q-tip brushes from Tamiya. And what you want to do is just soak it a little bit. Make sure we got some. So, and then on the actual model, wherever you have a run line, that's what we're aiming to get rid of right now. So with your soaked alcohol or thinner, you go over those areas, and eventually you'll see a little bit come off. what we do now is eliminate all the excess enamel panel line accent we put on earlier. Okay. And what you want to do is eliminate all the paint lines. So if you see on the edge there's a little bit of a paint line. We don't want that. It looks like somebody put that there. So you just simply reactivate it a bit, and then you start carefully getting rid of it. So you want to do that on all the points that show a run, or maybe the effect that a brush did it. We don't want that. We want to make it look like nature did it. Make sure all your fades are how you want. No runs. Put one there. Let's talk about rust, and I'm going to show you a few different companies here. So typically I prefer to use oil paints. They do take a lot longer to dry. We're not going to do that this time. I'll do that in another video. But this is the best effect here. Oil paints and MIG thinner for washes. In this video we're going to be going over acrylic rust. So this is just your typical acrylic that you'll find at your big box stores, cheap. Here's some Model Master. And my secret is you always want to use a dark brown and an orangey color. Dark brown signifies rust that's been there a while, and orange will signify a fresh rust. And we just want to put in a couple spots up here. Okay. Now on the white car, our container, we're going to see it a lot more, so we're not going to do as much. Okay, just little pieces like that. And we'll come back in. So we'll put a couple over here where Old Southern used to be. And Pacific. Very subtle, but it's there. A couple over here. And these colors we'll be using again for the trucks and wheels later. Right now we're not dealing with those, we're worrying about this. Those are simple, we'll deal with them later. Now in the orange, the brown is going to show a lot more. So be very careful how you put it on there. And one thing I'm going to deal with too is the kick up on the ends. All containers have kick up. We're going to have to simulate that ever so slightly, just a little bit. So let's start that. Startable right there. And next to do this part, we're going to add just a couple streaks, and we need some water for that. Otherwise, just it won't run properly. Now, while I have this color out, I'm just going to quickly highlight a couple of the things on our coupler truck. Just because I don't want to do this again after. And all we're going to do is highlight a little bit of the rust here. That's it. Almost like a dry brush. Some of the journals there. I'm not going to do anything to the wheels, guys. There's almost just no point with these things. They're just too small. What we're going to do is just add a couple last powders. And I'm going to carefully empty some of it out right here. So this is fresh rust. Just drop it right there. Only need a little bit. Alright, that's fresh rust weathering powder by AIM. And this is dark earth by AIM. One other thing I usually do on my larger, I'll show you on my, I usually airbrush the bottom to simulate road grime. So you can see that on my, I do it on the small ones too, but you don't notice it as much when you do it on the containers or the side of the well car. There's just not too much room to work with. This is our dark earth. All right. And we're gonna rub some of it on the bottoms just like that. And we only need a little bit. Some up in here. And some up in here. Alright, so now we're going to do the other side. Always use a stiff brush for this, guys. As you see, this weathering powder just kind of blends everything together now. This is why it's one of the final stages. The next one will just be sealing it. So this is technically the final stage in the weathering process, but next we're going to seal it so our hands can touch it in the future. So I'm going to grab. And then lastly, we are going to deal with the roofs. Now, for this process, I don't want to do too much to the roofs because they're interchangeable, and so you might not see this one or that one. So we're just going to slightly add some side streaking here and there, just like so. It's okay if your brush hits the model. It just adds a little bit of wear. That's all we're doing. A little bit of both. Same thing. Left and right strokes. I like using a nice acrylic varnish. It lasts a while. You can handle it. Even if you don't intend on handling these, it's inevitable. We have to pick these up and touch them. So adding this nice acrylic, it's a matte. They also have gloss, but should be gloss. We're not going to use the gloss. We're going to use a matte. Alright, now we're going to just spray this right out of the bottle. My PSI is at about 25. And make sure you coat everything, guys. Alright, guys. Make sure you get everything. I know it might be hard to see, but what you do is reflect it with the light here. So you see that? You can see everything is nicely coated. What I want to do is add the wheel sets back onto this unit. There we go. Next we're going to take our containers, carefully take off our tape from underneath, and place them in the well car. See which order you like it. Either or works. I'm personally thinking I'm going to put the orange on top. I wanted to see how they look both ways. We'll see. I think that's how I'm going to leave it. And that concludes our weathering tutorial on Z or Z scale well cars from MTL. Thanks for watching, guys, and if you enjoyed and learned anything, please like and subscribe. See you next time.